join a team, get mentored. We're all the time, we're doing this as a business, and most agents are looking at like, what is my commission, and what is my percentage of that commission? If I could do it backwards, I'd give 90% of my commission to that agent to learn exactly how to do it, right? I'd keep that 10%. We're paying for education, but then when it comes to a business, you're not okay to partner up with somebody that's going to show you the rope. So get on a team, get on a brokerage that really is aligned with your goals, that can basically say, yes, I believe in you. I can take you by the hand, and we can do this together. And I'm going to show you every step of the way.
Welcome back to another episode of Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate. I'm your host, Lindsay Cavazza, and today we're launching the very first episode of season 5. I have an incredible guest who is making waves in the luxury and investment real estate space. Federico Creatini is a high-performance real estate advisor and the founder of Creatini Group, a powerhouse team specializing in luxury sales and investments. With a career spanning over 15 years, Federico has mastered both traditional and cloud-based brokerage models, growing his team across multiple states from Rhode Island all the way up to New Hampshire. His team isn't just selling homes, they're delivering strategic solutions for homeowners, from direct to seller offers to home improvements that maximize value. Federico has built his success by thinking outside the box, leveraging modern marketing strategies, and scaling in a way that keeps him ahead of the competition. So, if you're looking to learn how to grow your real estate business and dominate your market, you are in the right place. Get ready, because Federico is about to drop some serious knowledge bombs. Let's get into it. Federico, welcome to the podcast today.
Woohoo! Thank you. Happy to be here.
So for everyone listening, we just recorded for about 10 minutes and it wasn't actually recording. So we're going to dive right back in and we're going to start right over so that you guys can actually hear this episode. So, it's never a dull day here at Crush It.
So I think I was saying something like along the lines of like, I am so excited. I was thrilled that I didn't know I was the grand opening to your season. So I'm the premier guest. I love it. Thank you so much.
You are the first guest of season 5. We had a little hiatus for about a month due to a multitude of reasons. But for the most part, we are just so excited to get back into May and start the year off right. So season 5, 2025, let's go. Federico's the first one. I love it.
Awesome.
What better way to kick it off?
Yeah, excited to be here. Great introduction. Thank you so much.
So let's start from the beginning. How did you get into real estate, and what is your backstory that got you to this place today?
Yeah, so just over 15 years ago, I got my license, and the reason I got into real estate mostly was because, I had family in the business, and I did the traditional way at the time in Boston. You start as a rental agent, then you move into a buyer agent, the typical model play. Eventually you have a large network and those buyers become, they eventually sell. So that was what I was told, and that's what I did. And I did that for many years. And eventually through the time, all right, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you kind of reset a little bit. You had family, you kind of reset, you took a little step back, you had some other things going on.
That's exactly it. So after that,
how do I know this? I don't know, but
how do you know that? You're just reading my mind.
We're gonna have so much fun with this.
Oh my God, I love it. So yeah, no, after some time, life got really busy. So I had at a point where I had a video production studio. I was doing sales and rentals still. And we had a baby coming on the way, and also had my insurance license. So something had to go, right? And so I decided, well, the real estate is something that I can easily start and stop again. So I put my real estate aside on pause for some time. And I think a lot of agents have been through that, or going through that, or are thinking about doing that. And it's a great asset to have, because I think, you got your license, and a lot of people might say, well, yeah, it's not what I imagined, but it's great. I mean, there were some years where I took a really nice income just because I had that referral. I represented that buyer, or I got a massive discount on our purchase that we bought ourselves. So, right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's great to have, and then use it when you can.
that's
And then
right.
when you do dive in, you got to dive in, because then you're going to
You
need
do.
to make those big commission checks that we talked about.
That's
You
right.
got.
So at some point, our kids got older. I let completely go of the video production studio, and I really wanted to dive back in. And so when I decided to come back in, I completely looked at it at a different angle and decided to create a business plan and follow, the listing strategies, right? And the listing marketing that really gets the control of this business and the biggest leverage.
So, we talked about this before, but the background that you have lends itself to being able to come in and do what you've done in real estate, because, you had talked to me before about the fact that you weren't just an entrepreneur, but you were a innovative entrepreneur doing things that other people hadn't done. You were one of the first drones, and you said you're welding things together. I mean, that's crazy to me. I can barely tie my shoes, never mind build something. So don't even ask me to. But that's incredible experience that led you into, being that entrepreneur that had that mindset. And, you would also mention someone from your team that I would like for you to mention again, because I feel like there's a lot of backgrounds in this industry that lend itself really well to coming into real estate. No one comes into real estate straight out of high school. It's very, very rare. They don't say I want to be a realtor when they go to career day. They think that after the fact, so they come to this business with some kind of core values and instincts. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the gentleman that's on your team right now?
Yeah, no, that's great. So exactly what we were saying. You said we have a lot of people in this industry, right, that have gotten their drive because they come through some sort of complete, either it's entrepreneur or some sort of difficulty in their lives, and they went through those struggles and they learned from that and created this. But the other side is that anybody can really do this if you have the drive and the commitment to it, right? And one clear example is Eduardo, that just joined my team. He got his license just 2 weeks ago today, on the dot. And he already has 2 listing appointments.
That's
one was today.
Crazy.
Yeah. One was today. And we can dive into that because, he's willing to hear an offer. And then another one on Saturday. And so 2 listing appointments, and he's just ongoing. He's taking my 15 years of experience, and he's like, I want to do this. I want to do this. And I said, no, we're going to focus on this. And here you go. And he's willing to make the effort. I mean, the reason why we even met is he was door knocking. He was a solar guy door knocking, and we're just talking shop about my panels. He was just curious. Mm-hmm. And then of course I followed up with this guy and I said, hey, you got to get your license. He's like, yeah, I've been kind of thinking about it. And here we are,
Everyone has that person in their story that kind of pushed them into the direction to getting into real estate. It's like I said, I've talked to people that are teachers and they've had someone that's told them, or I've talked to a lot of people that were bartenders and they had someone that would come to their bar that was a real estate agent. And they'd be like, you'd be great in real estate, right? There's always someone like that in someone's story. Did you have someone like that for you? I know your mom was in the business, but was she pushing you into the business? Or was that kind of something that you saw her and you thought, I might want to do this? Or was she kind of instrumental in pushing you to do it?
No, I had friends that actually were also in the business at the time.
Got it.
And so it was a collaborative effort between hearing other people's experiences, meeting different people in the business and saying, yeah, this is something that I really want to do.
So how cool that you get to now be that person for someone else,
That's
and get
right.
their 2 weeks. He's going to think that that's how this goes. He's not going to know what to do when he has a lull, because he's going to think that just every week you get a listing.
Oh, he's never going to have a lull. I mean, you don't need to. There's people listing a listing a day. I mean, if you really, right, you don't need a lull. I mean, nope. A lull, I think, is somewhat self-generated.
I totally agree with that, my friend. I totally agree with that. So, all right, going back to you, I think that this is kind of where we left off anyways, is the fact that how you started the group. because I want to know how you kind of went from, you were doing the sale, you were doing the rentals, then you got into dealing more with listings. And then when did you finally say, you know what, I need to start a team. I need to start to, you had said that being that entrepreneur, you're always looking for that next step. So how did that next step come for you?
Great. So one of the things that I did, which I didn't realize at the time, I was so busy with my own business. I was actually proactively thinking I needed to grow my team. But what I had done is created a modern team without even knowing it. And a modern team is essentially you have a TC, you have an admin, right? You have an ISA, inside sales agent, that's calling for you. So you build all this before you hire another agent, right? And so I created all that, and at the same time, I really wanted to hire other folks, but I never proactively recruited actually just about anybody. I mean, you could say Eduardo May was a recruit, but it wasn't. It
wasn't a normal recruiting.
Almost every single person in my team, it's either I did a transaction with, it's been organic, so.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to grow any business is, through an organic growth, right? So,
Yep.
And so, we had this modern team, and I was working closely with investors and build the team up to where slowly we, I had a wonder in the Cape where I had some listings out there. I had some foreclosure listings, and he came and helped me with the lockbox situation. He was in a different brokerage. I'm like, I really need help. You have to wait. And we have somebody coming in. He's like, let me help you out. He was very proactive. So I love that, somebody coming in, being super proactive and helping us out. And then, so, he came onto the team. So now we can actually fully service the Cape. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Even though I think one of the things that really helped me out here, which I didn't really think, is that when you work for a larger company, it's so much easier to leverage that company, right? And it's not about the size of, or monetary, if they're nationwide, but if you have a really good footprint, you can collaborate a lot with a lot of agents. So if somebody's hearing, how can you take a Cape listing? Well, that's clear. I have Cape agents over there that can do showings for me, that can help me out with everything, right?
Yeah.
And so, you can really service the entire state if you do it correctly, right? And you have the right operations.
Yep. So what does the team look like today? What does it consist of?
Yeah, so we have 8 agents, and including myself, I'm still active, and we have an admin, a TC, and an ISA.
That's perfect. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what do you do to kind of help grow them, help train them? Like, do you have a specific amount of time that you kind of designate to kind of helping and training them, or what's your training focus like for them?
Yeah, no, that's great. And by the way, just the admin side, I just got out of it. We just are rehiring a new admin. I should note that right before we got into the call, I had a few other interviews. So
this will launch next Friday. So by then
she'll already be hired. But otherwise, if there's an admin out there looking for a job, hey, we're looking to hire.
Yeah, I love that.
And so, we have multiple weekly meetings. I am available to do any 3-way. I am really focused on the sales part. So I leverage EXP. By now, I'm big enough that I could get my broker's license, do my own broker, boutique, whatever. And I leverage it, right? I'd rather grow the team and focus on sales, what I like to do, and still have time to, see my family and wife and everything, right? So
that'd be nice.
It's a good goal. So you essentially, right now, we're mostly available outside of our calls. I'm also available for all of my agents for 3-way calls. So if they have that first listing appointment, or it could even be the 5th, if it's complicated or there's something, I'm available for that. I will go to their listing presentations. I will present with them, especially in the beginning. So I'm very proactive when it comes to sales things. Anything that's administrative, anything that is outside of a sales operation, I'm going to either outsource it to our admin, to our TC, or to the brokerage.
I love that. So I want to switch gears. Now we've talked about your team. I want to talk about you and the group and how you market yourself, because I feel like this is an important thing for agents to hear, especially someone that's maybe listening and maybe they do have like an admin or a TC or one person that's kind of helping them out, but they want to get to where you're at with 8 agents on the team, right? So I want to think about like, what are the ways that you market yourselves to be able to, drive leads into your group? And, what has been some of the most successful things that you guys have done?
Yeah. So first of all, their goal should never be, I want to hire 8 people. There's people that are operators in this modern brokerage, like this modern team structure, that are crushing teams that are like 30 or 40. Last year out of EXP, we have over 1,000 agents. Last year, when I was by myself, I counted as a team, even though I was by myself, I was in the top 10 for almost the entire year, right? And I was number 1 for the first 3 months or something like that. So, and there were teams that have 20, 30 people, right? So I think number count is something that we do. It's same things with transactions. I want to get to 50 transactions this year, or 10 or 20. And I would rather have one transaction that gives me the same gross commission as all those 20. All day, I'll take that, right? Yeah. And maybe we can divide it into 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is. But yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. The numbers matter,
right? And not the quality, right? Not the quantity, right?
So, exactly. Yeah. So what are your marketing strategies that help you get to where you need to go?
So I think everybody needs always in any business a unique value proposition, right? How are you setting yourself apart? And so when you're approaching anybody, you should come in with something that is very unique, right? Or at least it sets you apart, that does something better, that adds an extra layer. And so what we've done is come in with a direct to seller marketing approach. We go, we'll market either through social media, through postcards, through all the normal channels, cold calling, whatever it is. So there's nothing novel about that. But what really sets us apart is that because I've started doing investing myself, I worked with an investment team that did multiple transactions a month. I know how to underwrite a property, and I know the background of what actually happens on and off market into most real estate transactions, where I think what people are seeing is just the iceberg, right? It is that finished product. It is that house as is. And they're not really seeing how that became one to the other in all the multiple ways, because it's not A, B, and C. It's not A and B. You can have an alphabet worth, or potentially even more, of how to architect a deal, an underwriting a real estate deal, right? And that's very exciting. So having that knowledge and that expertise really set me apart, in the sense that I can go to a seller and have a conversation where I can say, listen, I know you're probably getting off-market offers, and we can provide that as well. If you're looking to get a direct offer, we'll buy it as an investor. We won't be an agent at that point. We would always highly recommend that you go on market, right? And so we can really, black and white, let them know how much they're going to be losing out. And I think we had a little bit of a conversation about the off markets before. Right now, it's really a highlight. We're May of 2025, and
it's a controversial topic right now.
Yeah, I love it. It's a hot topic. You're always going to have off market properties. It's just always going to happen, right? Whether a brokerage decides to get involved or not and help that client, it's up to us, right? Because let's just say you inherit a property, right? And it's from your uncle, and you didn't have the close ties relationship with them, and it's a complete mess. He's collected things for over the last 50 years, and it's really a teardown. But there's a lot of personal values from your family and whatnot, and you don't want to just hire a realtor, list it as is, and have all this exposure that is emotional, negative exposure to your family, your neighbors walking in. And so for somebody like that, an off market seems like a very good option, right? Right. And so, but is that the only option? Is it listing it as is, or selling it to an investor, right? Or what about getting an off market through a brokerage that can manage a lot of investors at once, getting that price to go higher than if they're just getting that direct approach, right?
Yep.
If I'm an off market investor and I know some of these guys are putting over 100,000 a year, some even more than that. Or I should say, that sounds dumb, but multiple six figures, I should say, a year of marketing just to get to the off market. Do you think they're going to be able to pay? Do you think they're going to be able to pay the most in the market, right? In the off market, they have a huge marketing cost. How did they get to you to begin with, right? So you're paying for that one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
And that person needs to then get a profit when they sell. So their margins are tight and they can't pay top dollar. That's just, it is what it is, right? So you have to have that conversation. So what we are able to do is provide multiple solutions by saying, listen, we can buy it directly. We would recommend, probably doing clearing, because I have the contractors, I have the experienced people that can do this at a very low effective, boots on the ground, that will do it hourly and clear everything out cheaper than 800 junket or whatever other resource you have to remove your things. Do a fresh coat of paint. We can even do an entire flip for the client, essentially. So we can do the minimum, the maximum, and list it on the market. So we provide a very tiered based on their goals. Their goals, if they don't have a rush and they don't mind waiting, we have done months worth of work into a client's house and then flipped, and they have had six figures plus worth of equity. I call it hidden equity, So they have this equity, which is on market as is right now. And then they have this hidden part that you can unlock with this strategy.
So in the beginning, I had introduced you as a high performance real estate advisor. I think what I'm hearing from you is, it's not just sitting down with a client and saying, yeah, let's list your home, or like pushing them in to do that, because that's just like the easiest thing to do. You really are advising them, and you're giving them options that even some other realtors couldn't provide, because you have this background knowledge, this investment knowledge, all of this that you're bringing to the table. So that's really where your, as you said, your value proposition is, that it's not just about a transaction. It's about really advising them on getting the most money for their property.
Yeah. And so for me, my integrity is the number one thing. So we are a 5-star rated business. We wish to continue it that way. So for me, is having that conversation and saying, listen, invest, like, there's pain versus gain, and here it will be much easier for you. This is going to take a lot longer. I'm transparent. I give all the cards out. Here we'll probably make more money. Here you'll probably make more money. I don't care, and it's fine if we shake hands. If none of these options work out for you, and we're in Salem and you want to list with Mr. Salem, because that's totally fine. Let's shake hands on it. I'm going to give you my unique value proposition, and you decide, right? You decide. So I'm very non-pressure about the situation, and give multiple solutions to the client.
I love that. So talk to me a little bit more about off market and how you talked about how you kind of educate them on what things that they could have, but what would you say is the percentage of deals that you do off market that you've done in the past? Because like you said, it's a very hot topic right now. And I feel like it's something, that more people need to understand what the reasoning is behind it. And like, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? I think is probably even a better question to ask you. Like, what are your thoughts on this whole debate? As you mentioned, it's important to give them options. And that's really, what's necessary. So why don't you give me a little bit of your mindset on this whole thing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So going to market is ultimately the best thing for the client always, right?
Hands down.
There is no doubt about that. However, I'm afraid that if you only push clients to saying, I'm only going to work with you if you put this on the market, I feel that a lot of folks, like I mentioned, let's just say you had inherited that property we just talked about, and it's all these headaches. It's I've dealt with breaking seawalls, major six-figure expenses. Like it could be anything, right? And so you're dealing with headaches. And so that person's going to ultimately have to decide, do I go with that lowball offer that I got, through some random person giving me a call, or do I go with somebody and list it on market? Or is there a middle ground where I have a professional that I can trust? I want my privacy. I don't want my uncle stuff everywhere. But if they can get me a deal better than the off-market platform and net me more money, why isn't that an option, right? That should be an option always. And as long as the agent is very transparent and saying, listen, I'm going to do the very best, we're limited still. And I would still recommend, if you're talking to me, I would still recommend, why don't we just clear everything out, dump it? They're going to dump it anyways. Who's paying for it? It's either going to be, you're paying for it anyway. It's either going to be,
you're going to pay for it by not getting that equity.
Exactly. They're going to actually pay, probably tenfold, at closing if they don't do it themselves. So let's just do it. We've done things where we cleared things out in a weekend. Trucks are coming in and out. It's like, or dumpsters are coming in and out, and it's great. I love stories, right? And I have one example where we had this client where they were getting offers at like 1.3, 1.4 off market. And we went in there. The Zestimate was 1.5, and she called it was like very old lady, right? And Lindsay, knock, knock.
Hello. Who's
there? Who's there, right?
Yeah. Who's there?
Old lady.
Old lady who?
Why are we yodeling? Oldly. Sorry, a dad joke. I had to throw it in there. You had
to do it. You're a dad.
I did it at the listing presentation. I kid you not. She trusted me after that.
I love it.
All right. And that trust paid her off like tenfold, because we were talking about Zillow 1.5, right? I did the numbers and I said, yeah, it's probably going to it's 1.4. We can probably get you 1.5, maybe a little bit higher. However, it's not, we need to stage it, and I told her, like, the end buyer could be a developer, and it could be this and it could be that. So we don't need to go crazy and do new things. It's Cambridge. We can dive more into that if you want, but I knew the market there, and I said, listen, probably the most likely thing that you should do is just clear everything out as a 2-family. I said, invest into one showing unit. We don't even have to show the other one. Put the money in there. We did a clear out. We painted it, resanded the floors, staged it. And it looked very attractive, very, very little. It was not. It was under 20. And I think she was getting quotes, from other vendors, which would take much longer. And they were like 30, 35 net, the whole thing. We did it. We got it done within a week. 2 weeks later, we're on the market. First weekend, had multiple offers above the 1.5. We negotiated up to 1.7. So we went from that 1.4 to 1.3 off market, which seemed like a good deal because off market, and there were no realtor fees, and then netting them, $250,000 above that price. So it was
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there you have it. And that's a great option. That's a great example. And I think if they truly did not want to go on market, I would have said, this is probably what you should do. However, if this is your only way, this is what you want to do, and you absolutely don't want to list it. It could be privacy. It could be whatever. There's still a way where you can have an option at networking with all the other brokers in the area, letting them know that you have an exclusive listing. So an exclusive listing doesn't have to be an off market, doesn't have to be an exclusive, I should say.
Yeah.
An off market. And I think some folks really treat it like this, as a pocket listing, as something they're getting for themselves, where it should be actually about the client. If that's what they want, then you should provide that service, but you should really hustle for it, right? So call all the brokers in the area, do online advertising. If they're comfortable, right? If they're comfortable with that they just don't want it on every major platform, so you don't have the nosy neighbors, but they're okay, right? Then you can do a lot nowadays with social media, and paid for pay-per-click, that you can actually expose it and get a really strong exposure. And still, they might not get the full exposure. They probably won't. But on the other side, they're definitely going to get almost guaranteed that they're going to get more than that off market. Yeah.
Love it.
There's one other case example, since we're on off market.
Yeah, go for it.
Is that I have clients that are like, I have a make me move price, right? And it's above market price. But if you have that niche buyer that exactly needs this in a very tight market, right? I have a listing like that right now in Cambridge, right? I have somebody that's like, yeah, if we can get 5 million for it, knowing that it's probably somewhere south of that, right? Not my bunch, but maybe, I don't know. Definitely that would create a new record. But if somebody comes in and is like, I need a luxury 2-family home that is exactly here, that might be a really good fit for them. Otherwise, they have no incentive to move. And I think that's another platform, right? Where if we're putting it on the market at 5 million, it's just going to drag. And now when they want to sell in 2 years, they're like, well, you listed this for 2 years and it's sat on the market, and I can see it's sat on the market, right?
Go down in value. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right, we're actually almost done here, which is crazy because I feel like we've actually been talking for 5 minutes, but we've been talking for 45 now.
In total, that's right.
So I want to ask you one last question, which I usually typically ask, but I'm going to ask it of you a little bit different, which is, there's always that, my last question is usually something along the lines of like, what's your biggest piece of advice that you would give someone out there? But I want to ask it to you differently because I feel like you've come such a long way. I want to know what would be the biggest thing that yourself right now would have told yourself back then. So what's your biggest piece of advice kind of for yourself, for old Federico or for younger Federico, I should say?
Yeah, I'm living it right now. So I mentioned Eduardo, right? I can see that hunger that he has that I had back then, right? But I didn't have somebody that showed me and took me and gave me the hand and said, let's go, right? That saw my potential and said, let's do it. I think it's very easy for people to say, oh, he's not licensed, and or he would be a new agent, and I don't want to deal with that. It's 90% failure rate, right? And I think it really takes that. I would have loved to have that, right? So if I could tell myself, I could say, listen, join a team, get mentored. We're all the time, we're doing this as a business, and most agents are looking at like, what is my commission, and what is my percentage of that commission? And that's what they hold on to the most. And I feel like, if I could do it backwards, I'd give 90% of my commission to that agent to learn exactly how to do it, right? I'd keep that 10%. There's people still paying college loans, right? So we're paying for education, but then when it comes to a business, you're not okay to partner up with somebody that's going to show you the rope. So get on a team, get on a brokerage that really is aligned with your goals, that can basically say, yes, I believe in you. I can take you by the hand, and we can do this together. And I'm going to show you every step of the way. So that's what you need. And I think there's, that's a good question. That's a good answer, right? I got it.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect answer. And it lends us into something else we had talked about before that I want to mention again, which is that's literally why we created Crush It. It's for stuff like this, right? Is the sharing of knowledge, is to give people that maybe they don't want to pay for it. Maybe they don't want to take that hit on their commission, but they can get tips and success because we want to be able to work together. We're going to work together. We're going to be across the table from each other, working a deal or working, on a negotiation. And why shouldn't we have a shared knowledge, shared training to make everyone just better at what they do? So I love that. I think that that's great. And that's exactly, I think that that's good advice for your old self. That would have maybe you would have gone that much faster. I mean, you went pretty fast, but I feel like you would have even had that extra, push to go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I would say, the majority of my success has been done over the last 2-3 years. So without having to do a reset into my business, and I didn't really do it with a mentor, right? So you have to really, is this, and you see this, right? It's getting up and I should take that back. There's a lot of people here in my brokers that really have helped me out. we were, doing 5 a.m. Challenges and all this stuff. So I take it all back. But, but it does take that self-drive, because at the end of the day, it's 5 a.m. and they're not at my bed saying, hey, you got to get up,
You have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a pillow whispering me and saying, hey, no,
it's like, come back to me.
This is very cozy. So you need that self-drive. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Federico. Is there any last words that you'd like to say before we end things out?
Let's connect. I would say, yeah, even with you, right? We're having this conversation. It was so much fun to do it live. Let's connect. I'd love to hear from people what's working out there. Let's network and let's make some moves.
His links are down here, so reach out. I know the pointing feels opposite, doesn't it?
Yeah, I see a lot of links. I love it.
Yep. So his links are right there. We're also going to link it in the show notes. So please feel free to reach out to Federico. He's an open book. He gets back to you super quick. He's just going to be a wealth of knowledge and would love to talk to you. So I love that as your call to action at the end of this episode. I think definitely do that. Thank you so much, Federico, for doing this. I'm so glad we could make it work. I'm so glad that we were able to re-record the part that got screwed up. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm just so glad that we got a chance to interview you.
Thank you. What you're doing with this community is amazing. I was there myself at Crush It in Real Estate. I love this style of open collaboration. Like I said right at the beginning, not every brokerage is going to fit for everybody. There's so many different, as they keep evolving, everybody keeps changing things up. And I feel that it is very important. Like you said, you're going to be sitting at the closing table on the other side, right? There's not one company that works for everybody, right? No. I just heard a stat that the majority, there's been one company that's reached, I think, 12% of all agents, and that's the majority. So it goes to show you everybody's kind of spread out, right? Yep. So why not work together? And at the end of the day, it's making everybody more competitive, everybody better, and better business for the client at the end of the day, right? So
totally agree. So let's keep it going. Reach out to Federico if you want to collaborate. Reach out to us if you want to collaborate. We're happy to share. And we are so excited that you guys came to watch or listen if you're listening on the podcast today. And make sure you tune in for the next episode of the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate. So thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to the Agents Who Crush It in Real Estate podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with your friends and colleagues, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. If you're interested in being a guest, email us at info@crushitnre.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to crush it in real estate.